Good morning here on Arise News. I will have Arise Analyst EMMANUEL EFENI just joining us and looking all prim and proper and ready to go. Glad to have you join us, EMMANUEL.
Good morning indeed.
Yeah, good morning to you.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Great to be here indeed. We've listened to two of our correspondents, Taiwo
Yes.
and EGHOSA IGUNBOR, saying that INEC reported to the polling where they are, they reported quite on time. That's a plus.
Yes, a plus for INEC.
Yeah.
Because in time past, we have cases of voters getting there before INEC and waiting. But this time, INEC seemed to be on point and on time with the arrival of polling materials. And of course, going by that report, you can see that they were still setting up their tables and putting their materials in place, but clearly they are ready for the polls from the reports we're having so far. And that's a good one, which means once the first voter turns up, they can quickly attend to that voter, and as they come, there will be nobody waiting for INEC. Materials are available. Although I did not cite the security personnel.
I did, we did.
With
there were quite,
okay,
there's quite a few.
Okay, a few of them. Of course, that's how it should be. There should not be heavy presence of a security personnel at the polling unit. They can be, heavy presence can be some distance away. But as for those that would actually be by the polling unit or polling station, they must be few in number and they don't carry arms.
On the one hand, we do have an advantage in the sense that we have two correspondents on the ground there at two different locations.
Yes.
But of course, there are more than 2,000, I believe, different polling stations. We don't have a presence at all of them. So it's very difficult to see how reflective what we see in Benin is reflective of what's happening in the rest of Edo. So to your opinion, how much trust do you have in this process as a whole across the state? Do you think that what we've seen at the two polling stations is reflective of every other polling station in Edo State?
Well, the coverage of election, you don't restrict yourself to just one polling unit. I'm sure before long, Tokumbo and EGHOSA will be moving to other polling units to ensure that, or confirm that indeed the situation they have observed in those two stations where they have just reported from is something that is statewide or at least citywide. And in the course of the day, they will actually move outside the city, because when you are covering an election, you don't just stay in one location. You move around to see what is happening in other units. And they are also likely to venture out of Benin City, which is the state capital. Don't also forget that a number of other local governments are actually part of the capital city. Orion, part of the Ovia local government, they're also part of the city. So they will be venturing into other local governments outside Benin City, and the main local government in Benin is Oredo local government. Okay,
the main local Benin City. Yeah. We were discussing earlier, off camera, how that most likely the Edo North will be deciding this election. They have about 28, I think they control about 28% of the total number of people that will vote, which is the highest. What do you make of that?
No, the highest number is of votes is actually in Edo South.
Edo South,
where you have
Edo
over
North.
50%, about 58% of the total votes.
All right.
Of course, these are big, Benin is a big urban area, so you expect that the population there is large.
That's it, Oredo, Ovia Southwest, Ovia Northeast, Bobo, Oka.
So the local governments there, but you mentioned Edo North, and perhaps that is where we should start from, because it's likely to be a flashpoint. It has been predicted.
Okay.
Because of the personalities there. Edo North has a...
Sorry, Mr. EFENI, just looking at the graphic there, it does appear that APC enjoy a stronghold in Edo North.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, and I will tell you why it seems so. Although it still needs...
in Akoko Edo, though, it does seem as though it's more level, a level playing ground with both the APC and PDP having equal levels of strength there.
Yes, if you look at a place like Esako West, which has 10 words.
West, okay.
Words. That's likely to be a flashpoint because that is the homestead of Adams Oshomole.
Okay.
Also the homestead of Philip Schweibu.
Okay. Yeah.
The deputy governor and also the running mate of Godwin Obaseki. So two of them are from that local government. And the fact that both of them have been on the same party for a long time.
Exactly.
They know each other. They know their tactics. They know their tricks when it comes to election day. So they will try to checkmate one another. But on the long run, who actually has the control of the grassroots? I think that in itself will play a major, will be a major factor indeed. And because Philip Schweibu has been described as the grassroots man who does who is the foot soldier of Oshomole in time past, who does the groundwork in that area. But now that they are apart, and you can see there were some clashes in the past when Philip Schweibu had all your Okada riders and
you remember the Oba of Benin said,
yes,
you're the tough one. I heard you're the tough one.
The tough one. Well, it wasn't a complimentary comment, but it says something about the man Philip Schweibu, who also has the support of the youth. Don't forget, he was a former national president of National Association of Nigerian Students, NAS.
Oh, really?
Yes, okay. And he was in the trenches during the fight for democracy, went to prison, was sent to prison in Jos, where he had I don't want to call it privilege, of being in the same cell when General Dia was also indicted in a coup plot and sent to. So he too has been around and he has been in touch with the grassroots. But Oshomole, that has been his base, two-time governor, who by all standard performed. Across the state, they will tell you he performed while in office. And so he has his job well cut out.
Good presence there.
Yes, good presence. But again, with other persons in that party, Gani, Audu, the running mate of Osage is also from that local government.
Oh, really?
This is what I was waiting for you to say.
From that local government, and has been the chairman.
That's why there's so much noise about it.
About that Esako West, where you have 10 words. Yeah. But on the balance of scale, perhaps you say the weight of the big wigs may tilt the vote in the direction of APC. But one thing we also have to remember, Gani Audu has been local government chairman for almost 3 terms.
Oh.
Yes. He was picked straight from the chairmanship of the local government to run with...
Assist, deputize Osage Ezeyamu.
As the running mate of Osage Ezeyamu. Now, was he winning those positions on his own strength or on the basis of the fact that he has a godfather who imposed him on the people? Because Philip Schweibu told a story when both of them were running on our program, by the way, on our program, when he was on his program, when they were running for the House of Assembly seat, that Oshomole had to order him.
All right, I'm sure we're going to have to keep your. This sounds very interesting. You're like a storyteller. We'll get back to you, EMMANUEL EFENI, with us in the studio here. We'll get back and continue with discussions on the Edo election. Stay with us. It's glad to have you back. You're still watching The Money Show. EMMANUEL EFENI is still here with us. Let's discuss about the stories making the rounds that Osage Ezeyamu, one of the contenders, is a grassroots person, maybe particularly in the south, or is it the entire Bini area? What's your sense?
Well, undoubtedly, Pastor Osage Ezeyamu is a grassroots politician, and especially in that Edo South, where you have the bulk of the voting population. 58% of the total
Voters, electorate.
voters, yes, come from Edo South, 58%, 1,281,414 out of 1.7 will be voting. And in this,
I mean, that's almost a whole.
yes, EGHOSA has been homeboy, if you will. Primary school, secondary school, university in Benin City. Somebody joked that the only time he left Benin was when he went to law school. And he has been playing politics for quite some time. Yes, I can tell you that during the military era, when ahead of the local government election, he was the one that mobilized a lot of youths. I was living in Benin then. Okay. And I even attended some of the meetings, mobilizing young graduates and all that. And we were meeting at a place called Hotel Philomena at Ohoro in Benin City, Ohoro Road. And each time that meeting is held, Lucky Benedon will sit here, and Pastor then simply Osage will be presiding, mobilizing, strategizing. So he's been doing it in a long while. And his foray in politics, he has also used it to reach out. And of course, when he became a pastor,
more reaching out.
Which in itself is a dramatic turn. Like, well, let me not make a biblical comparison here, but it was a dramatic turn that he's a pastor today.
I'm sure you wanted to talk about Saul.
Yes. For those who know him in his university days, that he's a pastor today, some will still cringe. Really? So, but he's a pastor. Yeah. But he's a pastor. And has also used that to reach out. But he's been playing politics in a long while, and he knows the nooks and crannies of the state, especially Edo South, where you have 58% of the... but what perhaps is playing for Obaseki is that in his short time in politics, he has also endeared himself to the elites, to organize groups like teachers, civil servants. I tell you a story. There was, a few weeks ago, a friend of mine, the mother-in-law came from Benin, a retired teacher, to take care of grandchildren. Mm-hmm. And suddenly she said, I have to go back to Benin, I have to go and vote. I said, what's your own in this? He said, no, we are going to vote with teachers, we are going to vote for, that was her own. And she made a statement that, look, for the first time she retired,
pensions were paid.
In 3 months, her papers were processed and she started receiving her entitlements.
Fantastic.
So if you have that kind of story across a group like teachers,
right,
they will rally behind you.
Yeah,
if you have that kind of story around civil servants, indeed, they will rally behind you.
Definitely.
So among that group, it's very popular. Then also,
okay, so sorry to interrupt you. We have Pastor Sage Ezeyamu. He is casting his vote. That is the polling station where our correspondent Tokunbo Taiwo is on ground. We can cross live to him, perhaps if we can hear any type of sounds on audio onto what's happening there. Let's take a listen.
All right. What you have on your screen playing out, of course, is the APC candidate, or Pastor Osage he is carrying out his own duty, voting. Of course, one can guess who he's voting for. That's
no prize for guessing.
No prize for guessing. So that's what we're witnessing there. Of course, you can see that the INEC officials are wearing their face masks. Pastor Osage is also wearing his face mask. That's what INEC told us. Everybody must be subjected. And I think I saw something like a social distancing too.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem as though everybody is behind him. Not everyone has their face mask covering their nose, sadly. Yeah. But we do see that we do have the challenger and the representative for the All Progressives Congress casting his vote. It is, of course, 9:23 this morning, so he is quite early on in the voting process. We did read during our newspaper review that definitely our VIPs and our high-profile politicians have been asked to remain indoors after casting their votes in the interest of security. Mr. EFENI, when we talk about security, with what we've heard from our correspondents on the ground, they both said that the genuine consensus is that things have been quite calm.
I think he's done his casting now. They're taking his temperature.
I wonder if he'll give us a comment.
He's done his casting.
Oh no, I think he's going to go vote now.
Yeah, he's going to put his ballot paper inside the box. Of course, you can see media people.
He's going to turn print.
Oh, he's going to.
That place is.
Yes.
What they were trying to what do you call that? Verification, yes, process. All is there. I think he's done that now.
Who is this photographer? I wonder this. Get out of the way.
The way he was putting his shoulders.
Yes. Look up, sir.
See Pastor Sage Ezeyamu about to deploy his vote ballot into the ballot box itself.
Yeah,
we can all guess that he has indeed cast his vote, and no surprises, I guess, for guessing who he has voted for.
Like, that's interesting. Early days, early movement by INEC. That's also commendable, Emmanuel.
Yes, quite commendable that. Like we said,
okay,
I do think Pastor is about to speak.
Hello. Yeah. Can you assess the process for us? Your thoughts?
Well, so far so good. Want to thank God for very fair weather. This morning it was drizzling, and one was a bit worried that it may rain. But you can see the sun has come, so the weather is good. And then, of course, you can also see that it's very peaceful. There are no talks. People are not. Nobody is shooting, and we are very happy that at least we have a peaceful atmosphere. I'm also happy too that INEC, they have a thermometer here, so they are checking temperatures. We've also tried to give face mask to our people, and we have encouraged them to come in batches so that they don't crowd this place. I think this canopy had to be brought because they thought it will rain. If not, want to avoid people, coming together in large numbers. But I think the process is good. To make accreditation easy, they have put the list of voters on the wall. So you go there first, check for your name, and then when you go to them, you mention the number, which makes accreditation very easy. So we've done that. They've accredited me, took me through the card reader, then gave me the ballot paper. And I'm also happy too that where the ballot box is, they have a cover, so at least you can vote with some level of privacy without people knowing how you voted. So I think that is quite good. If this process I'm seeing here is replicated in all the polling units, I believe that the process will be very, very fair, and we'll commend the INEC for a job well done.
Okay, so I know you must have been in touch with several members of your campaign team spread across the state. Have you heard of any incidents that you're unhappy about that you want INEC to look into so far?
Well, I can't say yet. The communication here is not that good. It's not that good. So I've not been able to get a lot of people, but I'm happy that in some places they said they almost started voting, which is good. Sometimes you delay these things far too long, but if they are starting early, it means that the process will also end early, which is quite good. I needed to vote here. After voting here now, I intend to relocate to Benin, where I can monitor the situation. I'm not going to be moving around, but at least in Benin, I can at least access all the networks, and I'll be able to know what is happening and react to it. But I'm a bit constrained here. But if I had not come to vote today, it would have been funny that I would not vote for myself. So I'm happy I've been able to vote. And when I'm able to talk to our people, I will have a fair idea of how well it's going. But here, I have no complaint. I think the process has been okay. The INEC people came on time. They appear to be very well prepared, and I think so far so good.
How confident are you of your victory in this election?
Well, I'm very confident, honestly. I just pray that we don't have problems anywhere. But, we've campaigned round, and we are fed the pulse of our people. We know their feelings. And I'm very confident that not only will we win, we will win the 18 local governments.
Thank you very much. There seems to be very low female-women engagement in these elections. What would you say to that?
That's not true. Women can always come out in large numbers. The thing is, I don't know what they are using here to judge, but if you are going to stay to the end, you are going to see a lot of women come out. They know that the beginning is always hectic, but you will see them. This is basically a farming community. So no matter how much you beg them, some of them will still like to go first to their farm. Well, as it rained this morning, go to their farm, check what is happening, and then come here. So I think in terms of percentage, women usually vote more than men. And it's still the same in this place. So you will see them come out. They're going to come out in large numbers.
Well, we've just heard Pastor Osagie Ezeyamu address the press after casting his own vote in the elections. Mr. EFENI, what do you have to say about what he said? Most importantly, perhaps if we could begin where he talked about debunking rumors that women weren't involved in the electoral process. Of course, it is still quite early, only 9:30 a.m. But do you agree that women will be represented? If we look at the registered voting numbers, there are slightly less women registered voters than there are men. Yeah. However, there haven't been that many female candidates throughout this entire process. And so while we can say that women definitely form part of the electorate, I wonder how good this election will be for women. What do you have to say about that?
Of the registered voters in Edo State, 2,210,534 registered voters, men 52%, women 48%. Not too far away.
That's quite impressive.
But whether they will turn up on election day is what the reporters were actually trying to talk about. And he has assured that, yes, women will try to avoid that early rush. Perhaps they will come later in the day to cast their ballots for the candidates.
They have to prepare their home. They have to cook before they start coming on.
So women are well represented in the voters list. 48% is quite...
it's just 4% difference.
Yes. So we can say women are well represented, but we hope they will turn out also in large numbers to be part of picking the next governor of Edo State.
Pastor Osagie Ezeyamu also said that he was confident that he would win.
Yes, every politician has to be confident.
You have to be.
Especially the two main candidates, Pastor Osagie Ezeyamu and Godwin Obaseki.
Of the PDP.
I'm sure by the time we speak to Obaseki, he too will be confident that he will win. But at the end of the day, only one candidate will win. And we hope that when that candidate is announced, there should be peace. The loser should take the defeat in good faith.
How do they say?
While the winner should be magnanimous in victory.
Victory.
So that's what we expect, and that should be the spirit that should be guiding our elections.
Talking about spirit, not to interrupt you there, but talking about spirit, he mentioned that the center where he casted his own vote was a farming community. And how well do you think that plays into his grassroots image as being a man of Benin State? Yes, of Edo State. Now, politicians go to their homestead, your locality, to register. And you must identify where you come from. And that's what he has done by registering in his very local community, his village, as it were. And he has gone there to cast his vote, and he said he will be joining to Benin City, where
you can have
good communication facilities to monitor what is happening in other polling units across the states.
So too early in the day, he said, for him to start talking about whether he has any complaints. Yes. But then he talked about the early appearance of INEC, and then he commended the INEC for the journey so far.
Yes, because for now, there's nothing to complain about. We usually have this complaint of INEC materials not arriving on time. In this case, they've gotten over that hurdle. And the card readers are working, because because when he was struggling, I thought perhaps, we have a situation where in one election, the card reader did not recognize the president of the country.
All right, we're going to keep you on post now. We're hearing that correspondent in Benin, one of them, EGHOSA IGUNBOR, is ready. EGHOSA, what updates do you have for us?
Well, we are currently at Ward 4 in Oredo local government, which has about 10 polling units. And we understand that this is where the governor is supposed to vote. Now, everyone is waiting for him to come and cast his vote. But of course, I can tell you that voting has started in earnest. It started at 8:45 here, even though we understand it started way earlier in some other areas. And of course, as expected, special consideration given to the aged who have already cast their vote. And I have Mr. Egbirame standing next to me. Come to this. So how has it been casting your vote this morning?
Well, everything is good. Everything is going on smoothly. I think I've been voting from since 79. I think this is the best election I've ever seen. Everywhere is calm. There's no trouble, no inches at all. I think everything is good. By the grace of God.
At all?
No hinges.
The better side should win.
All right, thank you very much. And we also have, please tell us your name.
Grace Ero.
Okay. So you've been voting for how many years now? You've been voting for how many years now?
It don't reach 16 years.
So what's the difference between this election and the other ones that you've participated in?
This one is good well. No worriness, no fighting.
Thank you very much. So now there you have it. Two people who already cast their vote and just waiting in anticipation, waiting to see the outcome. Like I said, we're waiting for the governor who is supposed to be here anytime soon to cast his vote. But at the moment, everything appears calm. Like I said, we have about 10 polling units here in Ward 4. And as a matter of fact, before the election started, we saw the presiding officer come out to reel out some of the rules and the conduct guiding the elections here. It started, of course, with strict compliance to COVID-19 protocols. Now, although it might look like that might not necessarily be feasible because
exactly,
of the crowd
because
because
what I'm looking at
units alone, we're expecting 1,400 people. Right.
Yes, EGHOSA, because what I'm looking at, I was just, as you were saying it, I was just peeping before you said that to see that there seems not to be social distancing. Yes, people are wearing their masks, all right. Particularly women, I saw that. That's quite interesting.
Right.
But it looks like the men don't seem to be wearing masks, but one or two I saw. But the women are wearing their masks. But no social distancing.
Well, in fact, as a matter of fact, like I said, the presiding officer did state that very clearly, when he said that at the beginning that you must, give yourself space of about 2 meters from each other. But that is not necessarily playing out here now. Everybody is anxious to cast their vote and probably go and rest at home, and because we thought it was going to rain this morning because the sky was really dark and gloomy, but the sun is coming out, and so we expect that the weather will be very favorable today.
Indeed. Well, also, on the one hand, we're definitely happy to see that the electorate is definitely reflective of the registered voters. We're seeing men and women alike. And as both people said, they're both happy with the election process very early on. As I continue to say that they don't feel as though there are any types of tensions. They do feel quite calm and happy. As we await the incumbent governor's arrival to cast his own vote, do you think that may change? We've been speaking so much about how strongholds may not continue to be strongholds because so many politicians who are involved in this election are from the same areas. Do you see any type of that clash between politician and party happening on the ground there?
Like you rightly mentioned, they are both from the same senatorial district, as it were, Edo South. So indeed, it's a very tough one to tell how the votes will go. But looking at the voting pattern so far, particularly from what played out in 2016, one can and again from the campaigns that we've seen. Now we do know that this, like I said much earlier, that this is an election between the elite and the grassroots. But then again, we'll also be looking at the turnout at these areas, and this would, I mean, largely influence how the elections will go today. As it were, when we came in this morning, we did see some kind of perhaps desperation might be too hard, but we did see someone who was making so much noise about with a T-shirt on saying "Vote or Die." And now what he was trying to say is the fact that he's ready to die to defend his vote here today. So we've seen some kind of funny actions being displayed, but all of that has been contained by the security agencies here. But then again, like I said, it's difficult to tell how the elections will go today.
All right, EGHOSA, thank you so much. We will get back to you in the course of the program and for you to give us more updates on developments as events play out there in Benin today that election is holding. We'll be joined by Victor Ohai, political analyst, in a short while from now. But Emmanuel, your last word.
Well, so far so good, peaceful, and we hope it will continue that way. Though elections, yes, you hear a lot of rhetorics and verbal brickbats, but if there are no violence, in this case, I think then we'll give the security agencies pass mark. Thumbs up for the politicians for keeping their followers in check. And of course, if you have that kind of atmosphere, there will be no excuse for INEC not to conduct a free and fair election.
EMMANUEL EFENI, thank you very much for your analysis these past 45 minutes. We appreciate your candor and your great analysis there. Well, as indeed rightly said, political analyst Victor Ohai is standing by now to further discuss the ongoing gubernatorial election in Edo State. Well, it's good to have you, Victor. Give us your thoughts. I'm sure you would have seen Pastor Sagie Iyamu cast his own vote and deliver his own message to the press that was standing there. What are your thoughts on the election process so far?
Well, I'd say so far so good, but it's too early to say if it's going to be peaceful. Actually, electoral violence, violence during elections, is not usually when you start casting the vote. It's when the results start coming. What happen with the politicians or the thugs, if you like, is that when they begin to discover that the vote is not going in their favor, then they would obviously either snatch a ballot or just create confusion so that that particular polling unit is declared inconclusive. So it is too early yet to say that it's a peaceful one, although we hope it's going to be peaceful at the end of the day. The other thing is what happened last night when the police restricted movement from midnight until this morning. Hopefully they didn't let anyone slip through, to avoid the issue of people moving arms, and ammunition. That was a good move. So, but it's good that it started out peacefully. I hope that this catches on and that everyone is in that mood, and that at the end of the day, that we do have a peaceful and conclusive election in
That's our hope,
indeed.
Victor. Good to see you. It's been quite a while. Good to see you. It's been quite a while.
Yeah.
Interestingly, INEC seems to have, raised the bar concerning how they report for elections. We've heard from our correspondents there that they were actually on their beats waiting for the voters. What's your sense of that? Even the materials came on time. Things seem to be working smoothly, at least from the INEC angle at the beginning of this, contest.
Well, all eyes are on Edo State, obviously. And it's an election in one state. So they have no choice but to get it right. In any case, I mean, they've had, what's it now? 21 years of experience, so I wouldn't expect anything less, The other thing is that Edo is not exactly a difficult terrain. I mean, if you were to go to a place like Bayelsa, for instance, where you'd have to travel hours by boat, to get electoral materials, through difficult terrains and all of that. So Edo is not one of such states. And so it's a good thing that it's happening that way. That's how it should be, So I don't know if we should give them medals for that, but it's good. And it should going forward, that's how it should be. The electorate should come and meet them there, not wait for them.
Yeah, well, but the fact that this time around they've done it, I think it would be good to give them kudos.
Well, we're
it said that when you praise somebody for what the good he has done, he will do another one.
I agree totally. I agree totally. Yeah, we'll reinforce it, yes.
Yeah.
I agree totally, yes.
And on the topic of tensions, I think that was almost the biggest issue in the run-up to this election, not just about who Edo would pick to be their governor for the next 4 years, but indeed whether or not the process itself would cascade into violence. Ultimately, this week, we've seen that the United States have intervened somehow, issuing sanctions, visa restrictions on Nigerian individuals that they believe were involved in stoking the fires of discontent and violence and unrest in Bayelsa and in Kogi State. And also that news coming in the run-up to this election here in Edo. Do you think that, I know you've said it's also too early to tell, but do you think if we were to mirror this point in the elections between what we're seeing in Edo today and what we saw in Kogi and in Bayelsa on election morning back in 2019, are they similar at all? We had our very own correspondent, or our own in-house analyst, EMMANUEL EFENI, say that there were the tensions in Kogi and Bayelsa in 2019 were palpable at this point in the election process. So what do you think? What is your opinion on that?
Well, you've heard the term hitting up the polity. That's exactly what, I mean, in the run-up of the build-up to this election, there's been quite a lot. We know about we're aware of the fact that there's no love lost, obviously, between between Oshobole, the so-called godfather, and his godson, or erstwhile godson, Obaseki. We know what's happening, across. So, and social media and the media generally have not helped matters. And a lot of words that were spoken about tigers, lions, people taming and others releasing lions and tigers. So it built up, I mean, with the benefit of hindsight and looking at what has happened in other states as well, where we've had electoral violence. So, and all eyes being on Edo, obviously there was tension. So, everyone was apprehensive, and it was good that Oba, the very revered monarch of, Oba of Benin, stepped in, the peace committee as well. A lot of people have spoken to the main actors, and it was also timely that the US and the UK have come to let them know that if they rig elections, they won't have a safe haven outside the country, either for themselves or for their dependents. So I think that's very good. Plus, there's something else that I read about in one of the papers this morning, what the IAGA is doing, an independent voting, I don't know what it's called now, but something VT or so.
Yeah, to monitor the elections alongside
Exactly, exactly. So, and if you have something like that, it doesn't matter that it's not official, because I think that's what happened. The thing is, when our politicians act with such impunity, they're not aware that you have observers from the European Union. They would not interfere, but they're watching and they're taking notes. And obviously, they were sent here, and so they would report back to where they're coming from, so they can tell. There are, which is what IAGA is doing as well. There are reports from the various polling units that obviously change along the way before they get to the final collation center. Yes, legally it is what is pronounced at the final collation center that is official by INEC, that is assumed to be the result. But it may not be the actual result of what happened on ground. So if there are independent monitoring sources and there are, punishments, if you like, for any impunity or...
Now you're delving into other areas one will want to bring up, which is quite fantastic. You've raised up issues.
Yes.
Observers, journalists,
Yes.
punishment. I'll get to that.
Okay.
But this is quite important.
Yes.
What's your sense of the statement by CDD that some people are trying to discredit INEC through fake news? Is this not a good case for the social media bill? How do you evaluate CDC's statement? I don't know whether you're privy to that statement.
I'm not privy,
and then
yes.
let me just add here. In fact, a recent video of thugs laid down by security operatives with the hashtag #EdoDecides2020 was meant to be an election. That's the hashtag. Has been viewed 2,000 times, shared 77 times. It was shared on Twitter by no less a person, Victor, than former boss of the NHRC, Chidi Odinkalo.
Yes.
It's totally false.
I'll say this to you. Social media has democratized the media, if you like. And the power base of the media has shifted from mainstream to citizen journalism now. How you control that is another kettle of fish. I'm afraid that a social media law may not cut it. They've tried it in other countries as well. The thing is to find a balance, and I like the fact that fact-checking is becoming something that we're taking seriously right now, and I wish, for instance, that, and I'm throwing this out in the open, someone would just open a website strictly for fact-checking, so that, I mean, within the country, yeah, so whatever it is that is thrown at you, put it there, and then instantly you can tell if it's been used somewhere before, if it's fake and all of that. So all of this is evolving, but you cannot emasculate freedom of information, whether fake or whatever. I mean, you can spread, you know that you can spread rumor. It's faster through social media.
But in the world
technology.
now, in the world now,
Yes.
it's catching on.
Yes.
Facebook has begun to change their policies.
Yes.
Twitter has begun to change their
Yes.
policies, and all that is catching on.
That's the evolution I was talking about. These things will evolve because obviously this is new technology, and as we move, we begin to see, how the technology evolves as well. We see the good part and we see the bad part, and the algorithm of these technologies can be tweaked, to detect if something has been used before, if something is fake, and all of that. And you can also raise red flags as well. And so it's evolving. And I think that if we allow it to evolve organically rather than try to control it through legislation, it might work better. Because when you try to legislate, I mean, it's not that it's not going to work, but you might just find out that you're just going to teach people how to circumvent. I mean, it's possible. I can send anything from here using what's it called now? Is it VPN or so? I hope I got the right terminology. Exactly. And you would think I'm from Russia. You understand that I'm posting from Russia. So Nigerians don't know too much about that. But the minute you begin to bring laws, they'll learn. Several years ago, I was in Iran where Facebook, some social media is restricted. But while I was there, I was still able to communicate because I used VPN and I circumvented the system, So people learn in places like that and they're able to do it. So, but if you try to emasculate, you just show them a way out. It's going to evolve organically. You can work with government can work with the social media agencies, Google and all that, and say, okay, here's a policy for Nigeria. We want you to make sure that this and this and this don't happen within this territory. Of course, there's a limit to what you can tell them to do, but it helps. But I don't think a social media bill is necessarily. We have enough laws. I don't think, because we have a tendency to misuse laws in this country. The intention may be good, but implementation is at the disposal of whoever is in power at the time, and they can use it however they want to.
All right. Well, I don't know. We still have some seconds. What's your sense of? Okay, let me even dive into that.
Yes.
Why? Why do you think that the perpetrators of this election malpractices are emboldened? Is it not because why can't people be caught and people be seen to be punished over time?
Well, the question is, permit me to murder English a bit. Who is the cutter and who is the cuttee? Okay. And so, if a man is bent on perpetuating himself in power, okay, if he sees he's going to lose and then he is in the executive arm of government, which means he has the police under his control, the army and all of that. So, I mean, so if you catch him, for instance, you're going to bring him to him, so to say. So, I mean, he's both judge and prosecutor in this case. That's the problem, which is why, although I think that what the U.S. did is tantamount to interfering in our domestic affairs.
Exactly. You know, I was raising that issue with my colleague.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, so I don't think it's right. But on the other hand, if you look at it, the truth is, if you do not...
it pains me to have to interrupt you there.
No, it's fine.
But we have indeed come to the end of our show. That is, of course, at the end of the morning show, but please do stay with us. The coverage of the Edo election continues with Adesua, Moron and Rufai Oseni.